Hi guys. This is like my third time trying to do a read today. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed that it actually works. I'm really tired, so we'll see how things go. All right. So I did just want to go ahead and talk about this book, Hill, E=mc squared. It is by David Bodanis, and I did have a book mark in here already, so I'm going to read that first, and I'll pull from a separate section of the book. This is on page 202. By 10 to the 32 years into the future, protons themselves might have begun to decay, and gradually very little of ordinary matter will be left. The universe will be composed of a greatly reduced category of things. There will be electrons of the sort we're used to, with a negative electric charge, and there will be curious antimatter versions of electrons with a positive charge. And, along with neutrinos and gravitons, there will be the swollen black holes, and even a cooled remnant of photons left over from the first seconds of creation, still traveling at their eternal 670 million miles per hour speed after all these ages. It doesn't end there. For given enough time, even black holes can evaporate. Everything they engulf will be released back, not into any recognizable form, but as an equivalent amount of radiation. I'm a flip mode. Okay. I open to 93, chapter 8, Into the Atom. University students in 1900s were taught that ordinary matter, bricks and steel and uranium and everything else, was made of smaller particles called atoms. But what atoms were made of, no one knew. One common view was that there was something like toughened, shiny ball bearings, mighty glowing entities that no one could see inside. It was only with the research of Ernest Rutherford, a great booming bear of a man working at the England's Manchester University in the period around 1910, that anyone got a clear view. Rutherford was at Manchester rather than at Oxford or Cambridge, not just because he was from rural New Zealand. He spoke with a common man's accent. If a research assistant was self-effacing enough, that could be overlooked. The problem, rather, was that when Rutherford had been a student at Cambridge, he had refused to show proper deference to his superiors. He'd even suggested creating a joint ventured business to earn money from one of his inventions, and that was a mortal sin. Yet the reason he became the scientist who got the first clear glimpse of the inside of atoms was, to a large extent, because his heightened awareness of discrimination made him the kindest leader of men. The bluff, booming exterior was just window dressing. He was good in nurturing skilled assistants, and his key experiment was monitored by a young man who would end up prefacing a most useful mobile radiation detection unit of Rutherford's suggested design. The audibly clicking counter was to be Hans Geiger's claim to fame. This is a picture of Ernest Rutherford. It says the photography is by C.E. Wynne Williams, AIP Emilio Segres, Visual Archives. I really hope y'all can see that. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and draw some cards. I do mix mediums. It's the way I do things. It's my type of string theory, and I'm not going to discount any of the skills that God has handed me, whether they be from the hands of my enemy or not. So I think that's the whole point of protons, neutrons, electrons. There's all three at the same time. So it's not even both at the same time, it's all three. So I guess you could say, for me, I'm not religious, but you could say something. I'm also not, I'm straight. I do not identify myself as homosexual. However, I would say that I would be like a trisexual, because I am a curious human being, just like everyone else, right? But that doesn't mean you have to try everything. There are limits. Everyone has hard limits. So, just saying. If you don't have hard limits, maybe you should. Sometimes it's okay to say no, and sometimes it's okay to say yes, and sometimes it's okay to just hang out. You know what I mean? All three of those states of being are totally legit. Okay, so the Two of Swords came up in the reverse. I actually had tried to do this reading several times before, and the Divine Wisdom card came out right at the end of the last read, which I will actually upload at the end of this one. You can copy and paste those together for yourselves. Okay, and the Ten of Pentacles. So literally, this is divine wisdom that has no choice of coming through. It is ultimate happiness to follow your own intuition rather than other people's intuition on you, or potentially your intuition on other people. It's better to just stay focused on yourself at times, and I think that's really significant. This is the Queen of Swords. This is the Libra card. I happen to be a Libra Venus myself. I love Queen of Swords. She is very direct. She's very to the point. There's no, for lack of a better term, kitty footing around. I think it's really pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to go ahead. I did want to share what I drew before because it got lost in ethereal energy sauce. So I did want to start sharing hieroglyphics with you guys. It is good to just kind of get a new sense of symbols, how they communicate with you on an artistic level, not only viscerally, but also from a audible, physical, artistic standpoint. This is a great way to reconnect. This is Egyptian hieroglyphics, How to Read and Write Them by Stefan Rossini. Just a really cool find. I got it at ARC. So, books are expensive. Originally, this was, I bought, I'm sure, in stores and whatnot. Let me just tear off this ARC tag and tell you guys, because literally you can find good little juicy little tidbits of mango lemon knowledge all up in the library. And if you purchase it, it can get expensive. Okay, this is actually $5.95 originally. I purchased it for $2.99, but it was half off, so technically it was $1.50. Little gem of knowledge there. Okay, when I was in the halfway house, I did some reading, Lifting the Veil of Lost Continent of Mu, The Motherland of Men by Jack Churchward. This is a great book. I actually did a drawing earlier. Oh my god, and I just opened up to the same page. So it's 241 is the page technically. This is a funny book. It's got strange notation, and this is an entire page. So they consider this portion of knowledge a page. It does have imagery. Let me just show you guys. It's got elephants on it, which are very maternal beings. It does have the symbols 1, 2, and 3. The 3 looks somewhat like, it's like a rainbow, a circle, and a swastika, which I know sounds very, very cryptic, but it's not. The swastika is actually a symbol of the sun. The same swastika symbol has been used by multiple different entities or cultures in the past. Far before Nazis ever came along, or Judaism was having an issue with the Germans. And this was the sign for the sun, which is also the Eye of Ra. So you can see kind of the same, it's called the Fibonacci curve, or the Fibonacci sequence. You can actually mathematically map it out. So that's something to keep in mind, and that is, in large part what this energy initially was about when I drew it. I'm going to draw from this again. Okay. 9 symbols. This is page 140, vignettes, tableaux, and diagrams. The cosmic diagram of the land of Mu was the first book ever written by man. I have traced this diagram back to more than 35,000 years ago. Just how long it had been in use before that, no one can even estimate. All of the ancient nations copied the motherland's diagram: the Mayas of the Yucatan, the Naga Mayas of India, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Egyptians, and the Pueblo Indians of southwestern North America. Only one retained its simple character with its original meanings: the Yucatan Mayans. The rest, except the Pueblos, added figures and introduced dogmas. So we know about hidden figures, and we know dogma has a lot to do with DNA, RNA activation. I would go look at that video that I just uploaded the other day. They gave some of the original figures different meanings so that the simple and beautiful symbol of the motherland became sadly distorted. This was brought about by the unscrupulous Egyptian priesthood. They first invented the devil, then they had to find an abode for him, so they invented hell. 5,000 years ago, the devil and hell were unknown. The priesthood of India, seeing the effects on the people of these inventions, were quick to follow Set with Shiva. This is just a really great book. It had really offered me a lot of ways to center myself during a very tumultuous time in my own life. I do want to talk about the pineal gland. Ironically enough, I did just open up to the next page, which has to do with the Egyptian pyramids. If you do look online, you can find an article on Google actually, about the pineal gland and the interior of the Great Pyramid in Egypt. So it shows the construction of the temple. Daniel Hoffman wrote a book called Temples of Light. It is an Egyptian odyssey, if you will, into the own ills or the Iliads, the AD belief system of your own mind that you may be caught in. We as a people spiritually, especially African Americans in particular, were taken from our homeland against our will and brought here. And that is something that does set us apart from most other immigrants that have come to this country of their own accord or of their own free will. Most other nations seem to be fighting to be here, whereas African Americans were forced to be here, and we continue to have to fight as well. And so that's a double standard, you know. So I think that's the truth and the essence of the matter at the end of the day. Oh wow, guys, look what I just found. Anyway, Earth Ascending. This is by Jose Argiles. I'm gonna go ahead and draw from this really quick, and it's just gonna be 2 seconds. I don't really feel like going way too deep into this, but I'm gonna draw here, and here, since we're talking about 3 stages of the lost continent of Mu, right? Okay. So, Ways of the Vines. This is page 126. Book Reader's Digest, ABCs of Nature, a family answer book. It's a great, just in general, encyclopedia. What special equipment do climbing vines possess? Vines waste no energy in building a sturdy stem. Some succumb to gravity and merely creep along the ground. Others climb trees or trellises, flourishing only when they are secretly attached and have grown high enough to be out of the shade. How vines anchor themselves to a support differs according to species. Some, such as morning glories, pole beans, and kudzu, are